we started. Anyway, sorry. Okay, about 10 minutes. I'm kidding. Okay, let's do this. Yes, for real. I want to start with honoring my mother. My mother was an amazing woman who raised four of us in the late 60s, 70s, and into the mid-80s. And I got to tell you, my mom spent a lot of her life trying to get her shit together. Not to a lot of fault of her own. The era she lived in, my mom was a twin. She was a beautiful woman. But the era she lived in, being a single divorced mother with four kids and working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, was frowned upon in many respects. But she did everything she could to provide a home for us, a roof over our head, food on the table, and clothes. And she didn't always do it as best as maybe some of her family members in the society said she should, but she did what she had to do to provide for us. A lot of who I am today is a direct result of my mother. And this is me. I was kind of a cute kid. But mom was an amazing woman, and it was through this process over the last few months when I got this invitation that my mom entered hospice care, and myself, my wife, my sister, and her husband took care of Mom until her last day on this earth, which was January 9th. And there are some in this room who knew my mother, and she will be missed dearly. And I said I wasn't going to cry, but I'm okay with crying, so if I do, you just deal with it. I love my mom, and she was amazing. The reality was, as a child, I lived a crazy childhood. I've seen things as a child and been through things that I wouldn't wish upon any child. This is just one of probably over 40 homes we lived in between the time I was born until the time I moved out when I was 15. Again, not due to my mom's fault. She was, in a lot of cases, running from our fathers who would beat her, who would come home drunk, beat us. There was abuse of all different kinds. And I got to tell you, being a person in long-term recovery, I've been able to look at my mom and her life and my own life through a different lens and really come to terms with that my mom was doing the best she knew how with what she had. I was about 9 years old when Mom met Johnny Ravel, and he was one of the first positive, strong role models that came into my life. And I really just latched onto him, an amazing man. The sad thing and a tragedy that turned me down a whole different road in my life that's brought me right to where I am today was he died of cancer about 3 years into Mom and his marriage, and died at the age of 44. At that time, this slide throws it a little off, but at that time I was 12 years old, and I was done keeping my shit together. And I started going down paths that I would wish upon no one. I started drinking and smoking pot and smoking cigarettes at about 12 years old. And that was really, in a lot of ways, kept my pain at bay. I was filled with pain from a crazy childhood that was continuing from being a child of sexual abuse, neglect from my mom having to do what she had to do to take care of us. And I started down this path creating a substance use disorder. And what I want to say is nobody that has a substance use disorder as a kid dreams of having this. Nobody wants to have a substance use disorder. Nobody wants to continue using drugs and alcohol at the levels that I was. But here I was, a teenager, drinking heavily, smoking pot every day, and I went from being a straight A student to failing out of school and dropping out in between 10th and 11th grade. I was lost. I didn't care about keeping my shit together, but I literally accidentally ended up in the military. My mom happily signed for me to go in the military. I'll never forget it, because she wanted a good life for me. And so I went in the military at the age of 17, literally just a kid. I went to Germany, and Germany, drinking is very accepted. In the military, drinking is very accepted, so my alcoholism propelled. I was the soldier in front of the first sergeant in the company commander's office almost every Monday and being told, hey Douglas, just get your shit together, control your drinking. I was trying that every time. In my 20s, I maintained some semblance of control, but not much. And because this is a short talk, I'm just going to speed forward. In my mid-20s, I met crack cocaine, I met methamphetamines, and I met jail cells, and I met felony convictions. And I got to tell you, keeping my shit together wasn't something I even thought was even possible. But the reality, and because of the time we have here, because I had access to treatment, because I had access to resources, because I had community members, because I had probation officers who gave a shit about me and gave me multiple chances and multiple opportunities in treatment, I stand before you today a nearly healed man. I don't have my shit together perfectly, but I got to tell you, my life is amazing today. And the last part of this, what I want to talk to you about, is what we all as a community need to keep in mind when we have someone with a substance use disorder that wants to get their shit together. That we as a community have to open doors. The drug war has failed. It continues to fail. We need to stop locking people up and we need to give them treatment. If it takes once, twice, 3 times, or 20 times, we need to continue to help people. Our treatment system as it stands is a failure. But it is what it is, so let's try to help people. We are a family of people in recovery. Myself, my wife, my son, his wife, my best friend who's sitting in this room. I have multiple people in this room who live amazing lives and are people in recovery. Recovery works. That's the reality. And we have to, as a community, say yes to finding ways to help people live positive lives in recovery. That's me and my son. He'll celebrate 5 years in March, and I'll celebrate 12 years. I got to tell you, I want to close with this, and I'm passionate about this. There is no one way, no silver bullet to get to and stay in recovery. There are some in the treatment field, there are some in the recovery community who say, this is the way. And if you don't do it this way, you're screwed. That's a myth, and it has to die. Thank you for letting me be here.